Finish him.
We're about to take it back.
Okay.
Talking Loud podcast. It's always Diesel Dog, and we're back for another banger. And we've got a banging episode, man. A super fantastic episode planned for you guys today, because it's all about big buds. How do you get them? How do you keep them in check? How do you what do you do? And are they as good as everyone makes them out to be? And to break it down today, I got my brother, my homie, Chad Westport on the show. What's up, Chad?
Oh, I am freaking fantastic, man. Thanks for having me. I'm stoked to be here, and I love the subject.
Hell yeah, man. Well, I'm super stoked to have you on, man. Like I was telling you off air, brother, it's been a long time overdue for this part two, man. We've been lacking, man.
It has, man. I'm glad we finally did it, and it's funny that we're on the same wavelength, man. We're both like thinking of it, and then we wind up doing a show together, and we're like, let's make it happen.
Literally, dude, that's freaking awesome, man. Well, I'm super stoked to have you back on, man. But for all those people who tuned in right now, guys, hit that like, because we got Chad on the show. Mr. Westport, the grape juice man himself, we got him on, man. So guys, hit that motherfucking like. But Chad, what's up, man? How's everything been going since you've been last been on, man? What's been different?
Man, things have been going good. As I said off air, I kind of started my day a little hard with the Chem 91, so I am freaking vibrant and ready for the show. But things have been good in the garden, man. I just got done testing the Westport grape juice S1s. Still doing a little bit more trimming on them, but that is a project that I'm happy to have done, tested by myself. They're about to go out to some testers. I'm actually looking for 50 testers, and I have a link on my Instagram. That first post, there's a link to a survey there. If you fill it out, this Sunday is when I'm selecting the testers. But that's the exciting stuff in the garden, and I've got more to test behind it. So a lot of stuff coming out. And you know what? One thing I breed intentionally for is big buds.
Oh, damn, bro. So that means today's episode, I got the right guy on the show to talk about that, man. And honestly, straight up, the Westport grape juice has been making a fucking rounds, bro. I think I told you I literally picked up a skunk mag, and I was just flipping through the skunk mag, seeing what's going on, and I saw Westport grape juice in there starring, bro. Shout out, man. Much respect, brother.
Thank you. I was out, dude. I was so stoked when I walked into a Barnes & Noble's Killing Time, looking through Skunk Magazine. I'm like, dude.
That's me. That's my strain. Wait, what? Wait, so how did that even get in there, dude? Like, how did it even reach there?
So that was actually kind of it's like a long collaboration with Julie Charo. She is the main editor or senior editor and part owner behind Skunk Magazine. And we've been working behind the scenes on a lot of different projects. And that was something that she enjoyed and was like, hey, we need a write-up for our next magazine, and I want yours, so send it to me.
That's what's up, man. That's that fire, man. And guys, definitely check out what Chad has got going on. Check out his Instagram, his YouTube page. He's everywhere doing a lot of great stuff. He's also on the Future Cannabis podcast quite often. So guys, definitely check all that stuff out. But the Westport's grape juice, man, that's definitely something that you guys might want to get your hands on. Because like I said, it's been popping up everywhere, man. And it's looking freaking fantastic. So if you guys want to try some of those testers, definitely hit them up. See if you can get your name on that list. And of course, we got to shout out the ICANN VIP Bean Club. I seen my homie Cabbar Jones is in here. I've seen a lot of people in the chat. Mr. Just Coolin, Rivera Jesus. We got a lot of people in the chat right now, man. So shout out to everyone who's part of the ICANN fam, supporting on Patreon, man. As we always say, ICANN is not monetized, so you guys' support really helps us to go a really long way, man. So thank you guys so much. And if you guys want to be part of the ICANN VIP Bean Club, we got some dope genetics, fire genetics going out to all VIPs all the time. So definitely join up, man. Mailboxes are burning down everywhere, and people in the chat right now got their mailboxes burned down. So if you guys guys want to join up, then definitely join up and show some love, man. But on that note, as I always say, this is also a live Q&A, guys. So you guys can get super interactive. Get down in the comments. Let me know if you guys like big buds or small buds or no buds. Do you not even like to smoke at all? Do you just like do nothing at all? Like, I don't know. But I'm actually got a poll running right now, Chad. And I got the question: do you prefer big buds or small nugs? Do you like it big or do you like it small? Right? And 16% of people actually said small nugs, and 84 says big buds. So let's talk about that. Why do you think everyone just likes these big friggin' buds, dude?
Dude, big buds are sexy. Let's not lie. When you look at a room or you look at like somebody's photo and there's just this bud just like sitting there, you're like, dang. So they're sexy.
I like big buds and I cannot lie.
Yeah.
The best can't deny. Oh man, but one thing I did notice, man, is that big buds do have that friggin' like bag appeal, man. Everybody loves it. It just looks so good. Seeing big buds in pictures definitely looks way better than seeing a bunch of small popcorn nugs, right?
It's something that the legal market has like almost kind of disappeared, because even if you go and you're getting like an eighth or a quarter at your local dispensary, they're all still like broken down little buds. Like nobody like
Yeah.
It's hard to find those big buds anymore. And again, they're just nice and they're sexy. There's something about, slowly working on a bud. Like you start at the bottom, you break off that first little part and you look at it and you can see like there's one side with it's missing, and then you work around like corn on the cob and you get to that very tip. And that's like the bowl that you cherish. You're like just this little mushroom on this end of a twig and you're like, yeah, that's the bowl for me. So
man, Chad, you're such a stoner, dude. I ain't even gonna lie, bro. That is some of the most stoner shit I think I ever heard. But the funny thing is, I know exactly what you mean, dude.
Yes.
Oh, friggin' hell, man. But I guess the contrasting side to that is that, you're going to break it down anyway, right? So why not have that nice big flower where you can like see the beautiful, like friggin' trichomes and everything on there, see some of those colors really expressing themselves and stuff on that bud, right?
The way the plant was meant to be, the way it was meant to grow, it was, it was made for nature, not a bag. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Made for nature, not a bag. And for me, man, I personally love growing big buds, man. Like it's always an amazing thing. It's like one of those things that you feel some of those endorphins go off in your brain. And you just feel really good about, dude. Like I'm growing some nice big flowers. But you mentioned that you actually intentionally breed for big buds, right? So what are some of the stuff that I guess you would look for, or what are some of the telltale signs that like this plant is going to have big buds?
Right. A lot of times you'll find them on the shorter, squattier, bushier plants. And one of the main reasons for that is just like nodal spacing. Nodal spacing will make or break the big colas. You can have, two separate plants, different heights. One's tall with long internodal spacing and, small little nugs, and another that's just squat with like big old nugs. And they could weigh the absolute same. So it's not necessarily maybe a yield difference there, but with the big buds, tight nodal spacing, that the buds will stack up into each other. And that's really how you get it. And you can do, there's a variety of things you can do, but also like topping and training.
Yeah.
Anybody who's like topped and trained, I'm sure you've noticed that the main shoot starts and it's growing up and there's not very close like auxiliary branches or a close node. But as you top that, and let's say maybe, your flower tent's not open yet. So you top it again. You top it a couple of times, and now you notice all those little nodes are right towards the tip of the plant. And that's really how you can start to build a big cola through training. Got to have the right genetics, but that is one way to kind of cheat the system.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. And that's definitely some of the stuff that I sort of want to get into in the show today, guys. So as I said, it's a live Q&A if you guys got any questions about the big buds, because importantly, like I think feeding is a big one. Like we can also talk about that. I want to talk about that a little bit later on. I also want to touch on the training, like you mentioned. And there are also some risks, I think, that are attached to growing big buds, especially if your environment is out of whack, right? So there are a lot of different things that can sort of happen on that. And just before we actually sort of dig into that, I just wanted to touch quickly on the fact that Ohio went rec recently, man, and that's something that I saw the Ohio ICANN fam posting about, and I was like, wow, man, that's fucking amazing, dude. That's fucking dope.
Yeah.
Oh,
dude.
man, what do you think about that, brother?
I'm jealous. In a state that legalized adult use over 11 years ago, unless I have my medical license, I still can't grow a plant. So,
Wow, that's so crazy.
okay, enough about me.
Yeah,
Ohio, I'm stoked for you, man. Seriously, you guys, I think it was like 2.5 ounces of personal possession, like out and about. I think 7.5 in the home, like
yeah,
15 grams of concentrates. And yeah, 6 plants per adult, 12 per household. That's freaking awesome, man.
yeah.
They're working on expungement. That's the only other thing I wanted to see out of a lot of these laws. It's stupid for people to still have their life
Messed up.
yeah, messed up because of a
Yeah.
past conviction. So get that out of the way and then let all the chads make their freaking hundreds and thousands of dollars. But yeah, Ohio, good on you. And I'm stoked because they turned down a measure in 2015 where there were only going to be 10 grows. It was going to be a monopoly.
Yeah.
And the people are like, no.
Shit.
So
Yeah.
yeah, good on
Good on
them.
that.
Sorry to be long-winded about that.
No, that's big though. I fully agree, man. And big ups to Ohio, man, and everywhere else that's taking those sort of moves to be progressive. I think that's friggin' amazing, man. And small steps, even if it's baby steps to get to the bigger goal at the end of the day. I think that's dope, man. Because at the end of the day, everyone just wants to grow those big buds, man. That's what today's episode is about, man. Those big, nice, sticky buds, man. The elephant toes, as we call them. But on that note, man, before we even get to the actual buds, man, a lot of people think about, the importance of the veg period. Because like, you can veg for a super short period and have some really small plants, and you may not end up with those big buds that you're looking for. Of course, if you have some genetics, you can have small plants with massive flowers. I get that. But a lot of people are like, they try to find that perfect veg time. So for you, how long do you veg your plants, Chad, to get those like nice dense flowers, bro?
Nice dense flowers. I usually, because I have a flower tent and a veg tent,
Yeah.
it's usually about 60 days, which is
Okay.
again why I choose short flowering strains.
Yeah.
So it's usually about 60 days, which involves a lot of training to manage their height and their size while I'm waiting for the flower tent to empty. From seed, though,
Interesting.
30 to 50 days is typical when I
Yeah.
when I go from seed. If I have an empty room, 30 to 50 days, and that's usually to produce smaller plants but more variety, because I'm kind of a variety guy versus like quantity. I could grow one massive plant in a 4x4,
Yeah.
or I could grow maybe 8 smaller ones and the yields may be identical, but I like the variety. So I typically will do it sooner than later based off of my desire to have kind of smaller plants, but
Okay.
big buds.
I got you. So I guess you're sort of in a similar situation to me. Like you got a flower tent, but like your veg space where you actually veg, you don't got like, the world of space in that veg area. Is that am I right in assuming that?
Yeah, you're right too. And because I take clones, like there's a few strains that, I've been working with for years and I have to keep those going.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
in order to do that, once the flower tent empties, then I can take my clones in the veg tent, move that, and then start the clones in the veg. Otherwise, if I started it earlier, then I've had the vegging plants and I've got the clones that are going. That's just too much space. So
Yeah.
it really is a careful ballet of timing.
I got you. I got you. Makes a lot of sense. So you aim for that like 60-day veg period, right? And that gives you
Yeah,
like, enough time to, build up those bud sites, really train your plants, get in there, manipulate them, and maximize your yield as well as get those nice big flowers, right?
absolutely.
I got you. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So that's a really nice veg period. I think I would agree with that, guys. So let us know, guys. What do you guys veg for? Like, how long do you guys veg for? Drop it in the comments down below. I really am interested to find out how long everyone veges for. Because for me, about 30, 60 days, I think that's ideal as well. Some people actually go over that. Some people veg for
Mhm.
like, 3, 4 months, and leave those plants to get turned to massive monsters. And some people actually have been dropping comments on my YouTube videos recently and saying that they have been doing no real veg period at all. They just been doing 12 from seed, straight off the fucking rip, bro. And I think that's pretty interesting. So let me know what you guys do. A lot of people do different things out here, man. But Chad, when it actually comes to like, feeding as well, because like a lot of people, sort of think that there's a secret sauce when it comes to feeding that you can get these big nugs, right? Do you do anything differently in terms of your feeding process to get nicer, bigger flowers, or not really?
I keep the feeding similar to a regular routine. One of the key things you could do though is in watering. because watering will really
Interesting.
dictate a lot of how fast your plant actually grows. You know, you can waterlog it
Yeah.
and it's going to grow a little bit slower, even though it still looks good.
Yeah.
You can underwater it. It may look a little droopy, but it's still green and growing good. But
Yeah.
when you really nail the watering where there's like a good dry back, and it depends on the medium you're using too.
Yeah.
But yeah, watering is probably going to dictate the growth more so than the nutrients. The nutrients fuel it, but you know, the key turns with your watering.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point, man. And I think a lot of growers nowadays sort of overlook that. So props to you on bringing that up. Cause like even just recently, just by changing my watering system, my watering setup from hand watering every day to just going into like the blue mat systems and,
Mhm.
or even like some of those real buckets, shout out to my brother Scotty, like you take a lot of the handwork out of it. You take a lot of the dry patches out of your medium, and you take a lot of those excessive drybacks out. And what I've sort of realized is that when the medium is more moist and the plants are super happy, the microbial life is loving life down there, bro. Like the plants are just growing so much better. You get a lot more internodal spacing and stacking. You get a lot more branches growing out where branches weren't previously growing out, and plants just look a lot heftier. Like so. Watering, man. Pro tip. Big ups to you on that one, dude.
Yeah, thank you. I use auto pots on occasion, and that has saved my butt through vacations. And sometimes when I'm doing something where I want to set one tent on autopilot because I've got to focus on other thing,
Yeah.
the auto pots are great. The first time I used it, though, man, it almost made me feel like a crappy grower because the plants were always freaking happy. There was never any like, oh, time to water. Oh, time to water. No,
Yeah.
they were just always happy. So yeah,
All you got
it
to do
kind of
is like fill that res or whatever the case may be, just refill and you're good to go, right?
yeah,
It
yeah.
sort of makes you feel like you're also just, I'm taking the easy way out of this shit, man. Like, why am I doing this? Am I just like a fake grower or something? Because like, I'm not actually hand watering my plants. Like, I don't know.
That's the issue of having a crutch like that. Like it will do it perfect, and you don't actually have to learn how to water. You don't have to learn how to like read your plant, feel the pots. It kind of takes care of itself. So I try not to do them like two runs in a row. I always want to stay in touch with the basics,
I
right?
got you. I like that.
Don't replace your skill set, but
Yeah.
it's a freaking awesome tool to have.
It's true. Don't stray too far from home because where home is where the heart is and all that shit. But at the same time, you want to live your life sometimes. You want to be able to go out on vacations. You want to be able to automate your setup a little bit, even if it's just for a weekend. And
Yeah.
I myself had to do that in the past, and it really comes in clutch. Your plants don't come back to your grow looking like your plants are all the way fucked up.
Been there.
I think a lot of people have probably been there, man. So, guys, drop a like if you have been there, if you've gone away from vacation and your plans have gotten messed up, or if you had to like put someone's, your trust and your loving care of your plants in someone else's hands. And then you come back and they just overfed your shit, overwatered your shit, come back, they ain't looking too good. And they're just like, well, sorry, I didn't know. And you just got to hold that.
Yeah, I've made some pretty non-pretty videos after vacation when I come back, and dude, my house hitter is not a plant person.
I'm interested, man. That's so interesting, man. But honestly, man, I think let's just tie it back a little bit to the bigger buds, small buds. Because I'm seeing a lot of great comments in the chat right now. Shout out to OG Lieutenant Blazer, man. He's always on all the lives tuned in, and we got over 300 people tuned in right now. So guys, hit that like. We got to have over 350 likes if that's the case, man. Straight up. But shout out to OG Lieutenant Blazer. He's saying he prefers smaller buds because he has a less chance of bud rot, mold, pests, etc. in his opinion. So that's actually something that I've seen a lot of people actually, raggle with when it comes to growing massive fucking flowers, right? And I sort of mentioned it earlier on. If your environment is not tuned in, like you have your moisture levels are a little bit too high, even if your temps are a little bit too low and things get too cold and too moist, you can find yourselves in situations with bud rot. So what do you have to say about that, Chad? Have you ever had bud rot on just massive flowers? You rip it open in there and you notice like, shit, that's some bud rot inside of that bitch.
Yeah, I mean, that is kind of a heartbreaker. And surprisingly, being in the Pacific Northwest where it is consistently, high humidity,
Yeah.
I haven't seen it a lot. But there's a conspiracy here that we will get to in a second. about that exact question because I do believe there's a little bit of a sales brainwashing going on, like we've
Yeah,
seen with color of concentrates. But
true.
his question, yeah, that is absolutely a concern with larger buds. That's one of the drawbacks sometimes with larger buds
Yeah,
is if it's, if the environment isn't good, if the genetic is just predisposed to it,
yeah.
larger buds are more prone to bud rot.
Interesting.
But here is the conspiracy part.
Yeah,
It's such a small percentage. Like it doesn't happen a lot in proper conditions. Like
so true.
I'm old and all we grew were big old donkey D's. Like there was no such thing as a small bud because the small bud plant would be like, screw that. That doesn't
Yeah,
produce any kind of weight. It's out of the garden.
yeah. We ain't keeping
So
it around. Makes no sense, right? Waste of
yeah,
space.
yeah, and so previously it was about biomass. So the bigger the bud, the better, and
Yeah,
there were an entire market built on that type of thing, and it wasn't a huge problem. Like
yeah,
if big buds always got bud rot, there would have been no older market.
yeah.
Today, people are moving away from it, and I hear that as a reason why. And while that is true, you can also get hit by a car walking across a crosswalk.
At any
It's
moment, bro.
unlikely, but it's true, and it happens
Yeah,
every day.
big facts.
But so
Facts,
so
though.
I'm just gonna put it like that. Don't be scared of big buds, but you have to do have the right environment.
Yeah.
And again, I'm in a moisture climate. I like big buds, but my stuff is dialed, so I don't deal with it.
Yeah, that's a great point, man. It all comes down to that environment. And a lot of the times, once your environment is dialed in, you can grow the massivest of flowers and you ain't got to worry about nothing like at all. Personally, out here in Colorado, where it's super dry, super like cold, harsh, rocky climate, it's less of a problem for me with bud rot. But what I do have an issue with sometimes is when I'm drying my flower, shit dries super fast. You can lose your
Mhm.
taste, you can lose your flavor and all that stuff. And that's actually a question that I just seen come in right now from my homie Kaz Gnome Garden Gnome, which is a freaking dope ass name, brother. Shout out to that name. But he says if you
Yes.
can't dry them right, then big buds can be a problem. Mold. So when it comes to drying, Chad, like you're growing the nice big flowers. When it comes to drying, how do you go about the drying process? Like, what do you aim for to avoid some of that mold or bud rot?
So again, being kind of in a moisture climate, and yeah, Kazome Garden Gnome is an awesome name. Um, a few things you can do. Obviously, if you're in a high humidity environment, you want to take off all of the leaves. You may even give it like a little bit of a pre-trim. If I pre-trim, I cut off the stuff that just doesn't have trichomes on it. So I leave all the other stuff that does have trichomes because later
Gotcha.
when I'll go through, I'll use that for bubble, just trying to make the most of your resources.
Yeah.
So you can strip the plant heavily. You can give it a little bit of a pre-trim. You can even buck the nuggets down, and I've seen that and done that before. I typically don't use like nets, those hanging multi-tiered nets that you just place the buds in. I
Okay.
prefer to hang whole.
Yeah,
But in the
I agree.
case where you have some big old D's, yeah, break them down a little bit. You can use those nets. And as Miss K's garden is saying, airflow. Airflow is super important. You don't want it blowing directly on the buds because you don't want to dry it out too soon or too fast,
Yeah.
but definitely be moving and circulating air, gentle breeze within your drying space. So those
Yeah.
are a few things you can do to avoid mold when drying your big buds.
I got you. And those are fantastic points, man. And big ups to everyone like in the chat tuned in. You guys are seeing we're helping you guys out as best we can. And Chad is on here dropping some of those gems for you guys, as he always is. And that's why you guys need to check him out on YouTube. Check him out on everything because he's always on there posting some great content and just doing some great stuff, man. So big ups to Chad. But what I did want, because this was not meant to like turn into a bud rot, session or anything like that. But a lot of people have been asking, about the issues that come with it. But what I did want to sort of touch on, because I did see another comment come in, and that's something that I was going to raise myself as well, is that when it comes to bigger buds, right? Some people actually say that the bigger buds have less THC and the smaller buds have more THC. So like dispensaries and stuff like that would actually send the smaller nugs for testing because those have more higher concentrations of THC. So I don't know. I haven't tested it myself, but what do you think of that? Is that BS or?
So it falls into the conspiracy of mine. So there is a little
Exactly.
bit
I
of
think
truth.
it's
There is a little bit of truth to it.
okay.
So smaller buds, if you have a plant with more smaller buds, there's going to be more surface area. And more surface area equals more like visible trichomes or accessible trichomes.
Yeah.
So if you are a person who's focused on concentrates or washing, smaller buds with more surface space is better than a big bud, same weight, but less surface space because a lot of its weight is tied up within the big bud. So to the amount of THC, though, I would say no. And how testing actually works is they take samples, and sometimes the producer sends it in. Sometimes the state comes out and they take them, but they take
Okay.
grams from different parts of the plants or different buds, and then they grind it all up. So
Yeah.
it's not like they're actually putting a bud under and be like, this is more than that. It's all ground up and then it's
Gotcha.
tested. But more surface area, yes. More visible trichomes, yes. More THC, no.
Got you. Well, that is just perfect. Cause I did see on another video that you had like it was 80% sativa or 80% indica, 20% sativa equal 100% bullshit. So
Gosh.
you got to break down what's the bullshit and what's the good shit, and don't get brainwashed. A lot of these, like, as we could put it bluntly, like conspiracy shits, because that's pretty much what it is, right? People are trying to brainwash us stoners, thinking we're just stoners and we want the highest concentration of THC because that's what everybody wants. But at the end of the day, you guys, it's more about the taste, the terpenes, the effects, that whole entourage effect, and all that good stuff, right?
Yeah, and I've been around, like long enough to kind of see some of these things like play out and then change. I mean, I remember a
Yeah.
day when we thought it was called 420 because there were 420 like active psychedelic compounds in weed, and that's why it was 420. Like that
Yeah.
really was the truth for many years. And then as we progressed, we start to know. So I see through some of the things, but I also have like a business side to it. And I'm familiar with the commercial side and how that operates and what it's dictated by. And
Yeah.
again, if you pull a plant early because it makes clearer concentrate, you're going to do that. And guess what? You get more harvest per year. So that's more on your bottom line. So clear concentrate is better. And that's what we need to tell everybody.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So
Good point.
big buds, we don't like
Good
big
point.
buds because, there's a ton of bud rot and you can't grow it. That's why we grow the small buds. And that's why our genetics are also these small little buds. No, you're washing. Like I'm a flower guy, so I'm always going to keep the flower at heart. So big buds till I die.
Big buds, big buds. I love big buds too, man. I can't lie, but sometimes I don't not mind smaller buds as well. If I get some small buds and it's gas and it's cool, but
Oh
if
yeah.
it's
Oh
if
yeah.
it's like big buds that are like stank, like not good, as in bullshit, like taste and smell like hay, that's like a difficult thing to get through.
They're boof in all shapes and sizes.
Literally, I agree. I agree fully, man. And speaking of that, I actually wanted to just tie this question back because I got a question from one of the ICANN fams on Patreon. Shout out to Tanisha Cole, and she's always showing love, man. And she's been an ICANN fan member of the VIP Bean Club for such a long time. We sending beans out out all the way to her or him, whoever it is, but we're sending beans out all the way. But what I got, let me just pull that question up. Tanisha lives on a tropical island. It's very hard to lower their temps to a constant 60-degree Fahrenheit or even a 75-degree Fahrenheit when curing, even with an AC unit, right? They always try to go for a 10 to 14-day cure, but always have hay weed or super dry weed. And when they wait for a snap, even when throughout the flowering, the terpene profile was amazing, but the good genetics is mostly from ethos. And so basically what they're trying to get here is about that drying time in a super dry climate, that super warm climate, my bad. And, to avoid getting that dry hay taste, because that is something we just mentioned. You don't want to get that boof taste, you don't want to get that boofy smell, and it all comes down to the dry and cure. And I actually did a video on the dry and cure recently. But what would you suggest to someone like that, in that sort of situation? How can they, get the best out of their flower? Maybe not wait until the branch snaps is what I'm thinking, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, that's a great place to start the conversation because that is something that we hear repeated time and time again for decades is when the
Yeah.
branch snaps. And to be honest, I've never gone that far because it's always too dry at that point.
Yeah.
If you've ever trimmed weed, once you get towards that top and the cola, and there's just that little stem under the bud that you snip off, and then kind of like breaking the bud apart, as we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
If I can snap one of those, perfect. That's good. But snapping the branch itself, that's too late. So that's kind of like a repeated misconception.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that is important. It's too late if the thick branch is snapping. So they're in a warm climate, and I would assume, did they say Florida, or where did they say? I'm trying to gauge their
A tropical
humidity
island. They're actually out in
okay.
where is it? I think it might is it Puerto Rico? I think it may be.
Okay. Because evaporative cooling was going to be a suggestion, but you only want to do that with low humidity. Like Colorado, that would probably work, but in tropical regions, high humidity.
Yeah.
That is one place where cultivar, your choice in genetics, can kind of make a difference. A lot of the sativas have a more open or airy bud structure. They're
Okay.
not as tight and dense. So that's, doesn't help you currently, but that's something that you could use for the future.
Yeah.
Gosh, that's
The thing
the
that I
temperature.
would
The
say as
temperature.
well, just because of that she mentioned that the too quick of a dry, right? Be careful with that AC unit as well, because the AC unit will lower your temps, but it'll also lower your RH. So your RH can be dropping way too low, and that's probably why it's drying really fast. So maybe the heat may be a little bit less of an issue if you have a cool-ish room, but that AC can drop the RH as well. So that's just something I wanted to point out real quick.
And if I had to pick one of the two, humidity or temperature to have dialed, if I could only have one,
Yeah.
I would aim more towards the humidity.
Yeah.
Temperature, I'm not as concerned with going a little bit higher. When it gets colder, that's when you can run into the potential of, molds, because it doesn't dry as quickly. But they have heat issues. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's a good point there.
Yeah, that's definitely one thing I just wanted to shout out as well. And I think that you were able to touch on it greatly as well. Again, a lot of these misconceptions, these things that we've just been going on for years. Everyone's been saying this, people in the industry, you've been watching all these videos. People say, wait until your brand snaps, but personally, I don't do that shit, like I have done it in the past, but I try to stay away from doing it too often, because like, if I'm being real, I don't want my flour to get too dry. And I have noticed that when your flour seems like it's really dry, you put it into jars, some of that moisture does begin to pull out, and you realize it's not as dry as it once was. So you don't want to wait for it to get too dry anyway. So that's
Yeah.
just something I just wanted to shout out on, man. But Chad, I think you crushed it perfectly, man, because there are pros and cons with each of them, and it all comes down to how you get that dry and cure, man.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Sorry, I'm just reloading as we're talking here.
No, you're good, man. You're good. You got to do that reload. I'm actually about
I'm
to hit
enjoying
one myself. Me too, man. It's always a good show when we got Chad on, man. So guys, hit that like. We're always here trying to drop those gems for you guys and answer as many questions as we can for you guys to level up your home grow, get the best flour, because we want to be growing better than those dispos. We don't want to fall for any of those conspiracy theories either. You want to make sure that you discern the good shit from the bullshit, so that when you inhale, you only inhale the good shit that tastes like some dank. And that's what it's all about, man. That's what it's all about. Now, I actually seen a question come in, man. Chad, we touched on it earlier on, but before we touch on that question, I got to shout out my brother Creative, man. What is up, guys? Definitely check out Creative. Check out his channel too. Doing some great stuff, great interviews, crushing it, man. Big ups.
Shout out.
Shout out Sesh, and thank you for the donation, brother. I really appreciate you, man. But I done seen this question as well, man. Is does lollipopping harm the yield? And we were talking earlier about training, and the form of training that I like to do sometimes to get those bigger buds is lollipopping. It diverts all those hormones and everything to those big buds up top. You take off some of those popcorn nugs down low. Now, is lollipopping something that you do at all, Chad?
Consistently. That's a regular part. Unless it's a test run where I want to just let the plant grow naturally, I don't touch it, because again, sometimes if you have problems, it's in those very lower bud sites, and if you cut them off, you may not know. But yeah, as a standard operating procedure, I lollipop everything. Airflow is one reason for it. I hate trimming larf is another reason for it. But also just plant energy.
Dude,
Yeah,
I hate it.
this trimming's the only time I curse at plants. Like, I love this plant, but I will curse at this plant. And just like the larf, especially when you have enough to like, to provide for me and my wife, we have enough. So it's like, I don't even need that larf stuff. So yeah, I trim. Again, it helps with, airflow, IPM management. I do think it increases the yield a little bit because, again, the energy isn't going down and the light isn't penetrating that deep. So let's just focus the maximum on those big buds.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And that's something that I found some great results with, even when I first started growing, And that being said, when I first started growing as well, funny story, I actually was like, I'm going to lollipop this autoflower, not knowing I probably should not really have done that. And it just really hurt my yields. So you just got to know, if you're doing an auto, for me, I do less training and I've got big buds that way, hands off approach. Kiss, keep it simple, stupid. But when it comes to like, photo periods, it can really take that a little more form of abuse. They have time to recover. I'm a lollipop the hell out of that bad boy. And I really hate trimming larf, brother. Like, absolutely hate it, man. It's one of my pet peeves. Like, if I had one pet peeve, it's trimming larf. Popcorn bud, those little shits down at the bottom, I hate that shit.
Yeah. It's never good. And then in the end, if you do have it, like with all the stuff I'm doing now from the test run, I'm just throwing it in the wash anyways.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm like, what am I going to do with it? Yeah, I got a bunch of half cut plants hanging up in the shower now.
Yeah,
with
so
all the larf.
Oh man, I love this guy. Guys, smash this like because I can't stop it, man. I think we got almost 500 people on the live right now. So guys, hit that like. We got Chad in the house. We got Mr. Westport Grape Juice himself in the building, and we're talking about big fat ass nugs, man, because everyone likes those big butts, and I cannot lie.
Yeah.
And that's what's up, man. That's what's up. Now, I did want to say one thing, man, because we mentioned at the beginning of the show that we're going to touch on the training. We touched on the training. We were going to touch on the feeding, and we sort of touched on that, but I wanted to circle back because a lot of people, like I mentioned, are looking for that secret sauce when it comes to feeding. And you said you don't do anything really, differently to get those bigger buds. It's more about the watering, which I found super interesting. But there are a lot of people who are like, they advocate for these PK boosters and terpene enhancers and terpinator and all these things that will do all these crazy things for your plants and flower. And what do you think about those things? Do you think that as a beginner grower, do you think it's worth it for a beginner grower to go and spend extra cash on some of these I would like to call them gimmicks? But what do you think?
Right.
What do you think about it?
As a beginner grower, that shouldn't be your main focus. Like, your main focus should just be like the basics of watering, feeding, training, getting to harvest. Like, that should be the basics. You need to set a baseline for what you can judge everything else off of, again, because if you go kind of natural or by the book, paint by numbers, whatever you want to call it, for the first couple of runs, good, you're going to learn the plant, you're going to learn the basics, and then when you try something like a crazy bloom booster, you'll be like, whoa, that is so much better. You'll be like, what happened to my $30? So yeah, exactly.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So that's kind of how I look at that. And a lot of these things, like, I always kind of put it to scale. Like, growing in like the tent behind me is different than a 60,000 square foot warehouse, which I have grown in before. Now, if I can get a single gram off of every plant in that 60,000 square foot warehouse, holy crap, my yield, my profit, that just went through the roof. If I get 1 more gram per plant in my 4x4 tent, I get an extra joint. So that's kind of another way that I look at it too. There are definitely products out there that will help. And, kind of to the point of like, building big buds or that through specific feeding, you can add a little bit more like nitrogen, which you want to be careful of in flower anyhow. You still want to use it, but you do want to cut it out at the right time. But my point there is that will build biomass. Now, again, if you're just selling for like weight on the commercial market, biomass is good, but biomass does nothing for your cannabinoid content, which is where a lot of things are looking. So what's up, Rico? There's kind of a give and take of what you're growing for there.
Yeah.
So yeah, the CO2 is one last thing that is mentioned, and not a lot of
point.
people are running that. In the tent, some people are. And yeah, you can get bigger buds using CO2. You need to have more of a dialed system. It's better if it's a sealed environment. You're going to have to run your light with more intensity, some more ppfd. Those, again, it's just that extra little push. It's like you're already racing down the track and you're just hitting it to the floor. So
Yeah.
like once you can get there and you're good and you're bored and you're dialed, add in something like that and just get that little extra oomph to what
Yeah.
you're doing.
So true, man. And I would say, dude, because that is a great point, man. And a lot of people get hung up on all sorts of crazy stuff. Like anyone out here in the chat right now, I'm going to be real with you guys. Anyone watching this right now, have you guys ever tried growing a plant with just water? It's absolutely possible. I have tried it out in the Caribbean and plants actually grow. So don't get too hung up. Obviously, your plants will grow a lot better if they get what they need, but they will grow. You may notice like, certain things off at certain points, but at the end of it, it will still push through flower. And that's something that I've noticed, man. So Chad, I don't know if you've noticed the same. Like sometimes there are instances where I've like lacked on feeding my plants. I'm just a lazy ass motherfucker and I did not feel to mix up any nutrients. Whatever was organic in the soil has run out. And I just left the plant alone. I let it run out till flower and I just watered it, and I still ended up with those big buds. So it may not always be that you need to buy every single nutrient bottle under the fucking sun and feed your plant, because that may end up in like, an oversaturation of nutrients and oversaturation of salt buildup. They may have all sorts of things that you may end up, doing that can potentially affect the taste of your flower. You don't know what's going to happen down there. You really don't. So it's all something that you guys just need to be aware of, man. And I just wanted to point that one out real quick.
That's a really good point. Like that's a hidden golden gem there, because balance within the soil is so important. It's the balance that makes everything work.
Yeah.
It's the balance that keeps the nutrients in the right place at the right time. And it's the balance that forms those big buds. And we have seen, you mentioned those P and K boosters, it's like 0, 50, 50 added in flower because that's what plants crave.
And I'm literally looking at it and it's like 0, 0, 0.5. And I'm like, so what the fuck am I buying, bro? I don't get it.
Yeah. And then you add those and then you throw stuff out of balance and then you got to kind of correct stuff. And then, it's time to stop cutting out the nutrients and then it's harvest time. So yeah, balance is super important. So I'm glad you kind of brought that up of just randomly adding all the boosters.
Yeah, that's so true. And some things, like what I've noticed, like some things don't pair well with other things. Like they may even say it on their own bottles. Like if you put one thing, it might form like some sort of fucking thing in your water in your nutrient solution. And you don't want those things to happen. So just be careful with all these crazy different nutrients that you guys may be adding up all together. Oh man. Now what I do want to point out as well, because I'm seeing so many great comments in the chat, I'm trying to go through it all, so I do apologize if I miss anyone's comments and all that stuff, but shout out to everyone in the chat right now. And I just wanted to ask the final sort of question before we move on to the Know Your Bud segment, because it's been a while since we had Chad on and there are a few new things that I did want to ask Chad. Chad is an OG, a legend. He's been doing this for such a long time, and I think some of these new questions might stump him up, but what I did want to ask before that, man, it was about the dry and cure. I did sort of want to circle back because I seen a couple great questions on it. And one is about foxtailing, right? And I think foxtailing is something that can affect your big, nice flowers. You can have some flowers that look really nice, but they're not as dense as you want it to be simply because of that foxtailing. And Hewley has dropped a comment saying, I'm just dealing with heat issues. The buds are not so dense. 100 degrees this summer's heat got and higher. Airy buds works great, but we can't afford air. So what I do want to point out, is that something like this can affect, how dense, how big your flowers are. So Chad, what would you say about, those foxtailing issues?
Yeah, it's part of the plant's natural defense mechanism. Again, it's trying to sweat. It's taking its hoodie off. It's taking its shirt off. It's trying to just like, give me some air. Let me breathe. Quit being so dense. And that will happen. You'll get those foxtails, which makes it a little bit harder to trim. But then again, sometimes it's more surface area. So people who like concentrates don't mind it anymore. Foxtails used to be like, ew, that's so ugly. Now it's just like, wow, that's really unique.
people actually intentionally look for those sort of funky things, man. I remember once I was actually looking at some of these strains, like, exotic genetics and some of the ethos strains and all those stuff. And I noticed they were like really funkily shaped, almost like they were purposefully, foxtail-y structures, like not full on foxtails, but purposefully like slightly smaller, but really potent looking flowers. So maybe people are just going for that sort of thing. But when your heat is too high, that can affect, the density, and you don't want that lack of density, right?
Yeah, because and the reason why big buds sometimes can get that bud rot in the center is inside that biomass. It's hotter than what's outside the outside air, especially if
So
it's trying to
true.
transpire a lot. And that's the heat and the moisture, lack of airflow inside the bud. That's where the issues can
So you
arise.
can imagine if outside was over 100 degrees, what inside was feeling like. It's feeling like a friggin' oven, bro. Like one of
Yeah.
those Frigidaire Samsung ovens up in this bitch. Like,
Yeah, and
that's wild.
that's again, yeah. I mean, that's like genetics. It's like I probably wouldn't try to grow in the short squat Afghanis
Yeah.
if that was my environment. I'd grow something with a little bit more, branchier airspace and try to hit it with the wind and just diffuse some of the heat that way. But
Yeah.
you're absolutely right there.
Yeah, good point. And good point by NM Enchantment as well. Genetics also play a big role in getting some of those big flowers, guys. So if you do want
Yes.
to get some of those big buds, do a little bit of a pheno hunt, find something that you consider a keeper if you know those buds are going to be big. Because personally, I've popped beans, from one pack of seeds, let's say I popped 10 of them. 5 of them turn out with really nice fat flowers, and 5 of them are slightly on the smaller side, but have, some crazy smells and stuff like that. So it's all about what you're looking for. Hunt for it, find it, grow it. Just grow, find it, and you'll enjoy it, man.
Amen. Yeah, and don't I have a hard time getting rid of things. I rarely do, just based off of like the characteristics,
Yeah.
because you never know what you're gonna get. There
So
have been times where I've like, okay, I'm gonna keep this one, and I got rid of the rest based off of what I had at the time of harvest,
yeah.
and then everything like cured and dried properly, and I'm like, ooh, I should have kept number 3.
Yeah, dude, like that happened to me recently with a bag seed, and I kept the original mother plant and destroyed the bag seed afterward. Like I just didn't keep it around, bro, and R.I.P. And I really liked it, man. But we got a great question from Vanessa. So shout out to Vanessa. This one is probably one of those, bro science things. I've heard less light intensity at the beginning of flips makes larger buds. Now I gradually increase my light intensity as we progress through flower. How do you deal with that, Chad?
I do like to kind of ramp it up, the light intensity, because I go fairly low in veg again,
Yeah.
because I have that time window that I have to wait. So less light intensity makes them veg not quite as fast.
Yeah.
I do ramp it up. But as far as lower light causing bigger buds at first, I don't see where that would apply unless the intensity was too strong when it was full power and that was limiting its growth.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the plant is needing to photosynthesize. And the more photosynthesis that takes place, the more sugars and starches it has to create the metabolic process that is going to grow the larger bud. So if you're not meeting the DLI, daily light integral, basically the amount of PPFDs, the amount of intensity that the plant needs, it's not going to live up to its fullest potential. So I would think that you need to hit it with its full potential to get the maximum results in the end at harvest.
I got you. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, guys, I hope that makes a lot of sense for you guys as well, because it makes a lot of sense for me. And personally, I sort of just increase my lighting just slowly as I go throughout flower. I don't purposefully like have lesser intensity lights, at lower on in flower or anything like that. So yeah, but I'm trying to get all these questions in, guys, but so many questions in the chat, man. It's going friggin' crazy. So I do apologize if I can't get to them all. But just because of time, I do want to segue, man, to the Know Your Bud segment, Chad, because it's been a while since we had you on, and we had a few new questions, some new dope questions, and people have been asking for it in the chat. They were like, yo, you got to do the Know Your Bud segment, and I guess we got to get it on. So to start it off, man, I'm gonna just start straight off the rip, right? When it comes to like your preferences, like I'm gonna throw out a couple at you. All you got to do is tell me what's your preference and why.
Cool, let's do this, man.
Alrighty, man. So first off, I've seen you hit a few polls since we've started off the show, man. And I gotta ask, when it comes to token, what's your preference? Bong or joint? If you had to pick one, bong or joint? You grabbing the bong or you grabbing the joint?
I'm grabbing the joint just because you look cooler.
I love Chad, and Chad is the coolest dude I know, straight up, man. Oh, fucking hell, bro. Okay, now you pulled that joint, right? You took a few tokes, you're super blazed, your eyes are getting real heavy, you're getting low, and you're like, okay, I'm starting to feel a little bit hungry. I need to grab some munchies. You walk into the kitchen. What are you going to grab? A salty snack or a sweet snack?
Sweet snack. I'm not gonna lie. I'm going with a Hostess fucking cupcake, man. If I had some right now, I'd eat it.
I love cupcakes though, Chad. I can't even lie. I love cupcakes, man. Okay, now chocolate cupcake or vanilla cupcake?
I love them both, but I'm grabbing the chocolate first.
Oh man, I'm grabbing the vanilla first, man, so we can be friends. We ain't grabbing each other's cupcakes. Oh shit, bro. Oh fucking hell, man. Okay, so you just finished token on that joint, right? And you went and you ate your cupcake, right? You're gonna have a nap. You're gonna wake up tomorrow, and you can't smoke anything tomorrow, right? But the following day, you can take a pull, but you can only take one pull. What are you gonna do? Are you gonna do a wake and bake sesh, or are you gonna do a nightcap?
I'll do a wake and bake just so I won't be like thinking about it all day.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, I've been missing this for a while. That's why I'm so upset.
Yes. Start a wake and bake, have a nice breakfast, turn on some TV, probably take a nap in the lazy boy as old people do when they eat, and then like wake up and be like, all right.
Man, that lazy boy, though, you just can't beat that lazy boy. You just can't.
There's a sleep button in them, I swear.
I swear, bro. Like, you're full relax. I'm gonna be super chill up in this motherfucker. Relax. Now, you're chilling out, right? You just smoked that joint. You just eating your cupcake, right? And you literally just had your wake and bake sesh. And while you're having your wake and bake sesh, you're sitting now right here in this room, and that door behind you busts open, and 20-year-old you looks at you, and he's like, "Yo, Chad Westport, I'm your 20-year-old self, and I'm challenging you to a smoke off. Who you think is gonna win? Are you gonna whoop 20-year-old ass, or are you gonna go and you're gonna beat him right now? Who's gonna win that smoke off?"
Bro, I'm gonna freaking murder that kid.
Chad is super confident. A lot of people are like, man, 20-year-old me is gonna cut my ass. Chad is like the complete opposite.
Hell no.
I'm gonna beat his ass, boy. Oh, fucking hell, Chad. Oh man. So you literally think that, like, a lot of people actually say that is because nowadays the weed is just so much hotter, so much danker that, you know, the old school them just can't put up. They can't keep up, man.
You know, it could be that way, but I like to think that I actually probably smoke more now than I did then, only because I got the budget and I actually grow.
Yeah,
so
those two things would, like, yeah.
never
You
an
ever
issue.
seen that meme when like you're buying weed and like your joint is like super thin, but then when you're growing it, you got like these flat clunkers, like homegrown.
That explains the 20-year-old me versus the now in one picture.
Oh man, I love this, man. And shout out to everyone in the chat. Shout out to Dad's Tent. You know, he says chat only gets better with age, man. I think I love that.
It's
Juan
awesome.
Bobby says, yeah, my younger self would beat my ass in a lot of things. You know, Hazy Susan Scrogg would destroy 20-year-old me. So, you know, there's a lot of different opinions, man. And I love this, man. That's the point of the Know Your Bud segment, man. To help everyone to get to know you a little bit better and for me to get to know you a little bit better myself, man. So thank you so much, Chad. What a great sesh, bro.
Dude, that was fun. My freaking cheeks hurt. It was great questions.
Oh man, oh my gosh. Well, hell yeah, man. So I just want to say, you know, on behalf of everyone, man, Chad, I think we've touched on a lot of things, you know, growing those big dank flowers, you know, even some of the pros if you guys wanted to grow some of the smaller flowers, but everyone loves big ass buds, bro. So Chad, I think we touched on a lot of things, but before we actually close off, for everyone who wants to get in touch with you, find out what's going on, man, you know, just give yourself a shout out, man. Where can they get in touch with you and, you know, hook up with you, bro?
Oh man, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, so the two main places are Instagram and YouTube. Instagram, I'm chad.westport.
Hell
And again,
yeah.
right now, that first post, I got a link to be a tester for the new S1s, Westport Grape Juice, closing on Sunday. And YouTube, Chad Westport on YouTube. So that's a great place. And huge shout out to Norman G. Always see him everywhere. But dude, thank you so much for posting my links throughout the show. Like, that's freaking awesome. Good
Legend.
on you. I appreciate it, Norma.
Yeah, I gotta say, big up Norma G, man, really helping me out as always, man. One of the best moderators, I gotta say, that I got out there, man. So shout out to all the mods. All you guys help run everything and make the chat smooth while I'm trying to like navigate through all the questions and pull things up on screen and just find out what's going on with Chad and make him laugh so his cheeks hurt. Oh man, but big love, Chad. Thank you so much for coming on, man. I had a great session with you, man. And we definitely, I think we could crush a part 3, man. So we'll stay in touch and maybe we'll get that going, brother. But thank you so much for coming on, man. Appreciate you.
Dude, my pleasure. Thank you. Westport!
Westport fam, we out. And wait, before I forget, on behalf of everyone tuned in, man, thank you, Chad. And most importantly, you guys in the chat, don't forget, stay motherfucking high and stay motherfucking fly. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, fam.
Finish him.